everyone. It's me, Danny Pugh, the spiritual guide and astrologer. And today I've had some requests for a new astrology video, celebrity chart reading. And I apologize for the informality. I'm in San Diego right now and it's 1,000,000 degrees and I'm melting. So I'm just here hanging in there. I had a request for Michael Jackson's chart. I also had a request that we look at a Sun and Leo chart since it is Leo season. Michael Jackson's chart, it's too much. It's so intense. I just wasn't feeling like getting into that right now. So I picked Obama's chart, and it just seemed with all the elections coming up, and he has a Sun in Leo. I just thought it would be a really good opportunity to look at this chart again to walk you through the steps of reading a chart. According to Babylonian astrology, and also dive into again, what it means to have a sun sign, what your sun sign really means and how relevant it actually is when we look at the big picture of the chart. So here we are. Okay, so again to review, the first thing we look at in a chart is the first house, the ascendant, and this tells us this is our starting point. In a predictive reading, this represents the querent, or the person asking the question. In a birth chart, this represents you. It represents the person who is born, right here. So, okay, we've got Aquarius right here on the ascendant. So right away we know what? This is an Aquarian person ruled by Saturn. Saturn owns Aquarius, and Saturn is in Capricorn. So right away we know we have a Saturnian person. So what are Saturnian people like? We know for sure that Saturn people are structure creators. They are very interested in form and responsibility, discipline. They're interested in reliability and how to hold things together, how to hold people accountable, how to hold themselves accountable. And Aquarius is the masculine side of Saturn. It's also the softer side. So Saturn is a really sort of theoretically a malefic planet. It's very nasty. Saturn wants to freeze, reduce, and constrict anything that it touches. And now there are many reasons we want Saturn involved with things. For example, Saturn actually will restrict and remove certain diseases because it has a restrictive reducing quality. It's freezing and cold, and if there is inflammation and heat, sometimes the Saturn can be really helpful to take that away. So Saturn's role is to remove things, to create obstacles for you to learn and grow, and then for them to be then restricted and removed. And it's really all for the benefit of other people. If we had no form and no discipline holding things together, it'd be a really chaotic place. So Saturn often ends up representing, government, career, business, law, legal, a lot of these systems, not just systems, but these structures that hold things together. So, and it's not just like dry, like even a spiritual leader, for example, you can imagine how, if I have a meditation practice, and there's a discipline required to keeping your practice going day to day and to maintaining all of kind of the respect and the dignity, as part of that process. And that's still a very Saturnian quality of holding something together so that it might benefit. For example, if you're trying to grow plants, you plant the seeds, and you don't water it, you don't drown it in water, but you don't just throw the seeds out there. There's a form to it. You dig the little hole, you put the seed in, you cover it, you water it a little bit every day. So Saturn is part of that process of sort of creating a structure for things to be able to grow. And also the repercussions is if you overwater or underwater all these things, like Saturn will take that away. So the plant dies because you didn't follow the structure. So, okay, we have a Saturnian person right off the bat. This is a person who is interested in creating structure and understanding the rules of things and how to be a part of that. And we have Saturn in its own sign in Capricorn. So this is extremely well dignified. It's in its own sign. It's very confident here, has a lot of its ability to actually create that structure with that stability and not be phased by external circumstances. And then the rising in Aquarius does, even though Saturn is in Capricorn, the Aquarius piece does help to soften a little bit. So Aquarius is the softer side of Saturn. Capricorn is the more intense side of Saturn. The sun is in Capricorn in the dead of winter when everything is just completely dead, and that really represents what Saturn is doing. It's freezing everything over. And Aquarius comes right after Capricorn, in February, when things start to soften a little bit. So you see the difference between someone with a lot of Capricorn energy and versus Aquarius energy is, the Saturn energy, if you make a mistake, Capricorn is going to say, you know what, you really should have known better, and I can't help you with this because you need to make your own mistakes and learn for yourself, and if I help you out, you won't ever learn. So that's really Saturn's attitude, especially in Capricorn. In Aquarius, Saturn is a little bit softened, so the response is more like, oh, you went camping and you didn't bring any firewood, instead of saying, oh, I guess you're going to freeze to death. Saturn, with an Aquarius emphasis, starts to say, okay, I'll give you one piece of wood, but that's it. And you really should have known better, but I don't want you to die. So that's that's the subtle difference of Aquarius. Aquarius really does, they both really want to help, but Aquarius is really known as, has this humanitarian effort. Like, I see you struggling and I know you can't do it, so I'm going to help you, but I don't want to because I want you to learn for yourself, but I'm going to help you anyway. So you'll notice Aquarius energy it's a pretty noticeable trait in people. If you ever know somebody who tends to make an offer to help and then sort of redact it, that's very Aquarian. Oh, you have a headache? I have Advil, but it's in my car, and actually you're gonna have to go walk a mile to get it if you want it, and I don't really know where the keys are, but they're somewhere on that table. So that's kind of an Aquarian thing. The Saturn saying, well, I want to help and I have resources to help, but I can't help you as much as you should. I want to because you really should do it. So that's a very Aquarian thing. So that's who Obama is right off the bat. He's a Saturnian person. He really believes in creating structure. He thinks people should be responsible for themselves, and there's that slight warmth with Aquarian influence. So I'll help you a little bit, but we're gonna, his whole attitude of we're gonna have to make big changes because things have not been working. That is so Aquarius. So you got that Aquarian quality. Aquarius rising too tends to be very, very, very friendly and talkative. It has the kind of a shadow energy of friendship, and so you see Aquarius rising is very, very playful, talkative people at parties. They want to talk to everyone. They want to feel really connected to their community in that playful, social way. Aquarius risings tend to have a lot of friends. Okay, so then we look at Saturn in the 12th house. So this is an interesting part because it's modifying this whole thing here. So the 12th house is one of the malefic houses as well. It's an unfortunate house. It's cadent, which means it has the least amount of energy and light coming into it. In astrology, a 30-degree aspect is considered an inconjunct or a non-aspect, and it's invisible to the first house. So the 12th, 6th, and 8th are the unfortunate houses. So in this case, the 12th house represents institutions, particularly hospitals, prisons. It's what happens when you break the rules. So, and it's the opposite of the 6th house here as well. And so the 12th house, though, is what happens when you... and the 12th house is represented by Venus and Saturn as well. So that's their... the 12th house sort of shadow influence as well is Venus and Saturn. So Venus is about luxuriating, Saturn is about discipline. So the 12th house is about what you get in trouble for, what you thought you could get away with. So you were trying to luxuriate and what you got in trouble with. So that's how you go to prison, you go to hospital, you were having fun, you were doing something, with a Venus kind of lightheartedness maybe, and you got in trouble for it. So Saturn captured that. So it's what happens when you get in trouble. And so being paired there with that Jupiter in the 12th house is traditionally just known as a guardian angel planet. It's going to protect the natal chart person. So that's a really strong thing here, that it's Jupiter in the 12th is going to really make sure that this person is never really in it too deep. Not that it's just he's going to get pulled out of negative situations at the last minute, very very magically and naturally, and it's a pretty great thing to have. So in the 12th house, so we don't know, this is kind of where, when he first came into the public, people were like, well, we don't know you, we don't know where you came from, we don't understand you. So 12th house, it's not a visible space. It's hard for people to see him because he is in the 12th house, and so people just had a hard time at first trying to get to understand who he was, because he's hidden from view, his true nature. That by itself, the Saturn in the 12th, that could lead to somebody who got in trouble a lot, actually, growing up, but always got pulled out of the trouble at the last minute with that Jupiter. So this is somebody who sort of was able to make mistakes because they didn't see the consequences, then started to really understand what the consequences were, and then had that luck to get pulled out of kind of digging yourself into these holes. So that's going to be, this pattern that he's going to have been kind of reproducing throughout his life. But on the positive side of that, this is a person who really became an expert at understanding the consequences of his own actions. And I think he also probably does understand that not everybody has that Jupiter in the 12th house to get yourself pulled out. So he's trying to take all that wisdom and pull, other people, and pulling this country kind of out of this deep hole. And there's a lot of sort of discrepancy in conversations about Obama's sort of effectiveness with all of his campaigning and all of his progress and all of his commitments. But I mean, social academia and at this point is pretty well agreed that he's really pushed forward a lot of things. And I mean, statistically speaking, just by the numbers alone, he's reduced the country's debt, and made a lot of really helpful progress. So up for debate. I know it's sort of a controversial subject, and I see a lot of things that he's accomplished, and it's a pretty interesting chart for it. We don't know all of the things that he kind of been through more personally, but this is a very resilient individual with a lot of luck on his side, and that's very great. So then I just wanted to point out, so he's a sun in Leo, and again, that doesn't really factor into much of this chart and who he is as a person. Of course, you do, the sun sign does show up very physically often in the person. We see a very sort of charismatic, friendly, sort of like, Leos tend to have like an animated appearance, sort of exaggerated features, like larger eyes. They can look sort of like cartoony, animated. And so you get some of those quality, that candid Leo quality with him. He's obviously a very, so he's got the Sun in Leo and Mercury in Leo, so all that really dignified Leo energy. He's obviously a very eloquent speaker, very sort of theatrical and effective in his communication style. However, it just doesn't factor in necessarily that much into his actual, who he is as a person, which we know is this first house leading to here, and then that sort of, it's not really a conjunction because they're different signs, but that together with Jupiter in the 12th house, that's really who this person is. The Leo actually represents his relationship, his partner, and also his audience and open enemies as well. So it's right here, right on that 7th house cusp. So this represents Michelle Obama. She's, of course, a very Leonine individual. And how amazing is she? Sun and Leo in her own sign. This is a very magnanimous individual with a lot of, very charismatic, open, big open heart. And of course, that is by law his partner. He has a, this powerful kind of Leonine character as in Michelle Obama. So that's what we see in her. And she is a very powerful individual. And so he's got that really well set up in his chart. The other thing is worth mentioning, the 10th house is your career, also is very related to government, politics. That's in Scorpio, and we know Scorpio points to Mars. Mars is the investigator, the truth seeker, isn't afraid to go deep with things, and it's in Mars, and it's joy in Virgo. Virgo is the scientist and is very meticulous, so Mars is fairly contented in Virgo, and we see a person in their career who is very investigative. It's not really he was really willing to sort of take his time and do his homework and his science with a lot of his policy changes. And he's very, very strategic, of course. He spent a lot of time, he didn't make a lot of huge waves in his first term because he was doing a lot of research. He was building confidence in him, in the building confidence, helping the country to sort of build confidence in him. And then his second term, he went to make a lot of, bigger changes. And so it's all that very strategic Martian energy with that Virgo, that meticulousness, that earth energy to ground it and move at a consistent pace. So he's the god, it's a chart very grounded actually in earth energy. He would work really well with anyone else who has Taurus energy because that's his one missing piece. I checked, Michelle doesn't have any Taurus, but Taurus energy is a great piece for him in any kind of work or relationship environment. It's a really great energy for him would be. And just generally speaking, like pretty powerful chart. He's got his moon here in the 4th house. Family is extremely important to him. You get that Gemini energy as well. This again adding to his desire and his ability to speak really naturally and from the heart. Cancer energy as well. This Venus in Cancer. It's very cuddly positioning. It's kind of sweetens him even further. So this is a person. I mean, again, there was a lot of mistrust of him originally, all this 12th house stuff, because people couldn't get a hand on him. Like, where are you from? It's the 12th house. It's all hidden. But it's overall pretty trustworthy chart. Pretty trustworthy here. So, all right. Well, again, apologize for the being sweaty and in a tank top, but it's so hot. I hope you enjoyed learning about Barack Obama's chart and again following this flow of the Babylonian astrology technique and horary astrology. And please let me know if you have any other questions, any other requests for celebrities. Please subscribe to my channel. I really am enjoying connecting with all of you. And please feel free to comment on my videos. I do try to get back to every single person. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.